Our project is about sustainability. So we are trying to combine the sustainability perspective with risk management. In the morning sessions, everybody tried to put the construction industry within the perspective of sustainable futures. Here in this presentation, our focus will be on how the construction projects shall be managed and how the risks of construction projects shall be managed to incorporate sustainability. That's what we understand from sustainability incorporated risk management.
Yes.
So this is the outline of the presentation.
Number two, we look clear. I
Make
know.
some clarification about what we understand from risk management and sustainability. Then I will discuss why we need a sustainability incorporated risk management. Try to discuss the differences between traditional versus the sustainability incorporated risk management practices, and finally conclude with the forthcoming research project that we are going to conduct. Okay, this is the famous risk management framework. The process of risk management is very well known. It's one of the knowledge areas of project management. As you see, we have a generic system here. It starts with risk identification, continuous risk analysis, and risk response. But although the process is very well known, we have a system which is called the risk management system. That is the methods, tools, the information sources that we carry out these process for it. Also, we have the vision and strategy. It's well known that the risk management should be collaborative, integrated, it should have various perspectives. And it has to be carried out throughout the life cycle of the project. Actually, the best definition that I think for risk assessment is from Society of Risk Analysis. They define risk assessment as understanding and exploration of risk-related phenomena. So it's not the risk factors only, it is the interconnections between the factors of complexity, the event chains, and risks. So I have a representation to discuss what we understand from risk and how we're going to incorporate sustainability, and how the sustainability incorporated management will be different than the traditional one. This is the traditional way of understanding risks. Actually, the field of risk analysis deals with the phenomena. You can see the external forces acting on the structure. Actually, this is how I teach my students in civil engineering department what risk is and what complexity is. Think of a rectangle as a system, a structural element. There are forces pulling on it, and there are some internal forces, and there's a deformation. What we do in traditional risk assessment is that we concentrate on the external forces, the risk events. Actually, they emerge from some factors in the external environment and impose some forces on the project system, and the factors of complexity. Complexity may be external or internal. So there are interrelated factors within the project environment that we show with the circular arrow there. And the traditional view is that we try to understand the environment, that is the macro environment, to quantify or to predict the external factors, the risk events. And also we try to understand how the system or the project behaves under the given loads, factors of complexity and risk events. But if we want to incorporate sustainability into the picture, we have to understand the problem from a different perspective. Resilience is the keyword. In the previous session, Professor Ebru mentioned a similar thing. If you consider the unknown unknowns, or in his own words, he called sustainability as a wicked problem. We call it the unknown unknowns. If you incorporate sustainability into risk assessment, it means that you have to consider a longer period of time. It's not the project lifetime anymore. And we have to have the social as well as the technical. We have to have the social, environmental, and the economic factors which will have an impact all throughout the life of the project. So our aim here is not the prediction, not to predict the forces acting on the project. It's more about how to construct a resilient project system, where we define resilience as the capability and ability of an element to return to a stable state after a disruption. So we have these purple arrows. Well, how can we develop a resilient project system to incorporate, to reserve or to absorb the forces of sustainability? And regarding sustainability in the project management literature, because this is our focus, we approach sustainability from the project management perspective. We see that there are lots of researchers that incorporate sustainability into traditional project management functions, which are mainly value management, portfolio management, supply chain, stakeholder management. But the area of risk management there is a gap on that. And we know that because of the sustainability perspective, we have to find new methods, new ways to deal with the new risks of sustainability. So initially, the major aim of the study is we believe sustainability should be reflected into project performance as a perspective, as a performance criteria, and also as a risk-related factor that increases complexity and uncertainty. So the main idea, we say we need a systems or integrated approach. It's going to be a collaborative effort, life cycle focus, multidisciplinary approach, and what-if thinking, or I would say assumption-based thinking. And for that, we need some methodological integration, blending of risk and sustainability perspectives, and new risk assessment. Okay, and new methods for risk analysis. We compare these two approaches like this. In the traditional risk assessment, you consider the iron triangle, whereas you incorporate the level of sustainability achieved in the project as a performance criteria. And the durations are different, as well as the aim of risk management. In the traditional one, we have the elimination and control. That is the risk control, that what we want, what we expect from risk management. But in the sustainability incorporated one, our aim is to have a resilient project system. So lastly, let me say a few words about our ongoing research project. We just started a new project funded by Turkish National Science Foundation. It's called Sustainability Incorporated Complexity and Risk Management for Mega Construction Project. Maybe you know that in Turkey we have mega construction projects for the last 10 years. We will have a look at some case studies to explore the issues of risk and complexity and have a sustainability perspective on it, and then try to develop an assessment method as well as a model to run sustainability incorporated risk and complexity management. Our initial case study will be the Marmaray project, the immersed tunnel between Europe and Asia. It's a mega project, and we will use some cognitive mapping techniques first to understand and then to develop new methods. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a time for 2 questions. Any question, comment? If we don't have, yeah, so please.
Excuse me. How about sustainability in building materials? Not just for construction and risk management, but the sustainability role in building materials.
Yeah, we will consider it, because as a project, you have processes. One of the processes will be related with sustainability. And level of sustainable construction incorporates in it the material selection. So it will be a part of the process. Selection of material, waste, how to manage waste, how to minimize waste, is the function of project management. And we will have a look at the sustainability perspective from the materials perspective as well. it's included.
Interesting topic. When we discuss about sustainability, the key aim of sustainability itself to minimize the risk in the project or organization or a nation, like the continent.
Yeah, actually, we are not discussing sustainability to minimize risk. Yeah, there are some risks, but in the traditional construction project literature, the risks are to the cost, to the duration, to health and safety, quality, whatever. But we discuss level of sustainability as a performance criteria. The risks that will inhibit us to achieve our sustainability objectives. Yeah?
Means the sustainability goals of the project.
Exactly. The goals will be the level of sustainability. You have sustainability goals, especially in the mega projects, because they have huge impacts on environment and social environment as well. Yeah, the project stakeholders should consider that. And the risk management is about scenario developing, assumption-based thinking to see how which factors may affect the level of sustainability in an adverse way.
So you mean the sensitivity analysis.
Exactly, sensitivity, scenario, and assumption-based thinking to understand the scenarios, how they will change.
Probably because we are out of time now, so probably you can complete after break. So, yeah, thank you very much, Dr. After break you can discuss more. And now we have a second speaker. I think second, Dr. Carla is not here, so we will move to the third one. Dr. Muhammad Salama. And Dr. Muhammad Salama is currently the Director of Cooperative Executive Relations and the former Associate Head of the School of Social Science here at University, Dubai campus. Dr. Muhammad has 16 years of experience teaching in project management and cooperative management, strategic research method, negotiation in a school of management. We would like to welcome Dr. Muhammad, and he will have 10 minutes and 5 minutes for discussion.
Right. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the presentation. Today I'll be talking about green buildings and how to implement green buildings in the very, very high luxury emirate of Dubai. And when I say this, perhaps this is to provoke your thoughts about, in this very luxurious context where people do not care much about how much the cost of buildings, are we really keen on green buildings? By the way, one of our interviewed samples, a very senior executive in construction, he finished the interview in 2 minutes because he said, "Don't waste your time, son." And he was talking to my son who was doing this research. But anyway, this is the story of today. The study aims at the following. We wanted to investigate the awareness because we believe that we cannot really implement green building if people are not aware of what is green building about, and then identifying the challenges and identifying the critical success factors, very classical objectives. I will not tell you stories about literature, etc., because I'm sure many of the audience would know better than me about this, but I will tell you in 2 words that Dubai has been trying to implement green buildings, and when I say Dubai has been trying to implement something from 2012, and so far have not done so. When we normally see buildings coming up in 8 months, when built in other countries in 3 years, perhaps you can understand how this is challenging. So our methodology, we had a mixed approach. We had a survey of 500 individuals. We used a questionnaire of 0 to 10 scale. We aimed to have the 5 as a midpoint, which is cannot decide, and I show you why this is important. We had 2 lists from the literature, 25 challenges and 27 critical success factors. We attracted 243 respondents, not bad, close to 50%, which is reasonable. So we looked at there was a statistical analysis done mainly using frequency analysis, and one of the things that we realized that the 5, which is cannot decide, attracted significant numbers, which shows people do not know, as simple as that. And we were surveying different categories of people who are related to construction, but also from the general public, people who are renting or people who are buying properties. We did a different way in our frequency analysis by looking at the 6 and more and the 4 and less. If you can see what I'm talking about, because it's the 5 is cannot decide, so the 4 and less for the least important and the 6 and more for the most important. Can we switch? I'm not using the sound, so switch it off, please, immediately. So, what we did is, we did then a data reduction, because we have 29 factors and 27 factors, so we did a data reduction using factor analysis, and there is a technique known as rotation of axes, if you know what this means, because sometimes there is multicollinearity and correlation, so we do Varimax analysis to make sure that these are orthogonal. So in this case, this results in sense-making factors. The outcome of this is, I know perhaps you cannot see all the factors, but I will show you in the next slide. These you can see it in the paper, clearer. The table is in the paper, in the very, very nice hard copy procedure. So we managed to rank the factors, the challenges, and the success factors using the frequency analysis. We got the top factors and the top critical success, challenges and the top critical success factors. Then applying the principal component analysis with the rotation of axes, we managed to group them into 5 different groups for the challenges and 4 principal groups for the success factors. So this summarizes in words what we have seen. I'll leave you to read this quickly, but just to let you know that key findings are, we believe that experts say that it has to be from within. However, it doesn't seem to be happening from within. So it seems that we need imposed legislation, imposed system, and this eventually happened in the last year or so after we did this research, that Dubai government came with a legislation for green buildings, a new code of building. However, it is just scratching the surface, because the green building code, or what if we can call it so, in Dubai is just looking at glazing and some insulation. It is not really what we were aiming for after discussions and the many actions from 2012. It shows how the situation is difficult, and the reason is there are issues with the industry in Dubai. For example, risk management that we have just been talking about. Experts believe that risk as a critical challenge because risk has significant impact on insurance. And insurance is key to our building. Yesterday we had issues about modern slavery, and health and safety and comes together, tied to them. Insurance is a big thing. And with green buildings, some insurance companies in Dubai are not clear about what this means, and then in Dubai there are also stakeholders is a big issue, and I will show you that why this is the case. Unlike many parts of the world, in Dubai, those who own, which means those who buy, which means those who create demand, are not those who use. Because in many parts of Dubai you cannot buy. So the owners who drive the demand are not really keen about the utilities that are used to be the incentives for green buildings in countries like Canada, for example, where I come from by nationality, not by origin, of course. But how did it happen in Canada? By giving significant incentives to utility bills. If you do so in Dubai, it goes to the tenants, but there is no significant indication that it affects the rents. So the owners are not enticed. So the economics of the building industry perhaps need to change. And this was another key finding. So we believe that, and I will just focus on this, the government has to provide significant incentives, reduce energy and water tariffs that would stimulate the market and entice shift towards green buildings. I think here we have a socio-economic issue that needs to be addressed, which has to take into consideration the demographics of Dubai. And this is an interesting research because although we're not saying anything new, we are looking at an expat community that perhaps is not the general across the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the perfect time.
And now my question always is focused on buildings, but construction and human activities in construction is not only buildings but infrastructure. What about sustainable infrastructure? For example, in Dubai. Thank you.
Sorry, in
Dubai or in United Arab Emirates. Yeah.
The focus of our research was the Dubai government is doing wonderful job, and I mean wonderful job compared to any part of the world in terms of future planning, in terms of a strategic plan, in terms of infrastructure and then expansion that is perhaps well thought of 10, 15 years ago. That's why you see Dubai is very different from Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, other places. However, this is not the focus of our research. Our focus is we need people to engage in green building activities. And green building starts obviously by building green, but also waste, energy, etc. The government is doing, of course, the government is going green with all activities that involves government interaction. So the energy, DIWA, which is Dubai Electricity, they claim, and I've been attending some, it's going very well green. Transportation, they're moving towards green. So they are doing well in that, but funnels down to the people who are developers and users. And there is no clear shift towards building green, and hence the waste leading to air, the quality of air, and so forth. And the reason that there is a perception, first of all, there is no awareness for green building, as this research shows. There's no, there is a common belief that it is more expensive, and there are no actions to reward those who start to go green. So obviously, if very few are building green, the economics does not work, because those who are the supply chain becomes very expensive, because those who are supplying, they're supplying the material and for just a few, when the construction industry in Dubai is huge.
My question really regarding your methodology. I saw in your methodology that you use experts, 8 experts.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
We couldn't find them all.
My question: did you use formal interviews, and did you make analysis? And if so, is it different or different from the analysis or the results of the questionnaire?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Perhaps I forgot to mention that the aim of the interviews was to verify the findings of the interviews and perhaps to explain them. And my explanation of what the findings of the survey came from the interviews mainly, but we had different views. First of all, we were seeking 8, only 4 were available. Then one of them, he is an expert well, very well experienced in the construction industry, and he said, I've been building here in Dubai for a number of years. Son, don't waste your time. This is not going to happen. And he finished that in 2 minutes. That's a very, very good question. The answer in just very few words, the Dubai government is very scared of touching this market because it is a very shaky market, and it is one of the, I would say, pillars of the economy. They want to see it going up, and they don't know what to do, so they don't want to push towards green, they don't want to push otherwise, and they just trying to, I think they are in limbo at the moment. Yeah. Well, that's my interpretation. Perhaps I am wrong, but they are going green in everything that they do.
Well, then why can't they push it that much further then?
I think they are worried about how the market would react because it's very cost sensitive.
Yeah, but if everybody has to go that way, then that then becomes a level playing field.
That's what we're suggesting. We need legislation. That's what we're suggesting. But whether the government would penalize people, I think the West succeeded in showing the carrot rather than the stick. And I believe that this will happen in Dubai if the government does it well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the chance to be with you in this prestigious conference. My presentation today is about water energy nexus. It's a little bit different from all what we have here in the morning.
You press the wrong button.
Please show me. Yes. As a small introduction, which 2050, with a forecast of 9.2 billion people sharing our planet, is expected that people will be 70% increase in demand for food and 40% increase in demand for energy. Actually, by 2030, the world should confront a water supply shortage of about 40%. Especially in our area in the Middle East and North Africa, all the countries are suffering from shortage of fresh water, and the economy cannot run on the centralized energy, water, and food resources in future. So we have just the time now to think about changing our mind. We have to do our paradigm shift. All the technologies, all the applications we used to deal with water, food, and energy. If we go to the water as a first step, globally, 80% of the water used is surface water. And with surface water, we mean the water coming from rivers and lakes. 14% from underground water. These two resources together, we cannot do any research for increasing that amount because they are natural available resources. But we have here the area where we can concentrate our research, which is treatment of wastewater, desalination, and agricultural drainage water. Here we can do research, here we can utilize some other water resources and benefit out of them. Go to the fresh water available in our areas, we will find that in Middle East and North Africa is the poorest area all over the world regarding fresh water, and this is why we have to concentrate our research in this area on solving this problem of water issues. This did a deeper look or much deeper look on the resources in our area. Here, like countries like Egypt, we are mainly depending on Nile River, which is surface water, and to some extent on underground water. If you come to south, here we have a lot of desalination. This red color is for desalination, and this dark green is for reuse of water, of treated water. the rest is for underground water. So here we have advanced in desalination, but desalination now is being considered in Libya, and unexpectedly we have to consider now in Egypt, and Egypt we are building big desalination plant to cover the shortage expected in the Nile water. Now if we go to the energy, this one shows the energy distribution for primary fuel all over the world. We have like 27% coming from coal, 32% from oil, 22% coming from natural gas. So in total, we have like 80 something or more of fossil fuels, which means from energy point of view, we are not sustainable anymore, and we have to concentrate on this small portion, which could be considered sustainable, which is traditional biomass, hydropower, and other resources. Here we mean mainly solar energy and geothermal energy. This is the other renewable energy resource. If we come to the world oil and gas production, we will see that we have a problem. This is the traditional oil. Traditional oil means the cheap oil. Here is the good oil we are expecting to develop, and here is we are expecting to found. It's not increasing anymore. After that, we have the natural gas and the unconventional oil. Unconventional oil is the oil associated with rocks or with shale oil. Both are needing high technology and high investment to produce, which means I don't expect such oil to be used for the power generation, something more or less it will go into petrochemicals. This is the demand. You see? Here the demand is light comes time, and this is what we expect from biofuels. Only 4 billion barrels of oil can come from biofuels.